Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question for you, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing today?
Doing all right. I had something I was going to bring up. Oh, right. I've been looking into, like, isn't that funny that just like I'll be thinking about something all day, and then the second it comes to it, I can never remember. Anyway, I've been looking at Pathfinder 2nd Edition lately.
Okay.
So that's been pretty interesting. I've been meaning to like bring that up in the show.
Sure.
Because like at least now there's at least one more system that I'm going to be familiar with.
Sure.
Even if it's very similar to D&D, it's not like it's that much different.
Right.
The systems they use very similar mechanics and stuff. But I don't know. That's been pretty neat looking at a different system.
Cool. Because they just had a humble bundle with all of the 2nd edition books in it, right?
Right. Yeah, and then they have an advanced player's guide or whatever. They have their like second player guide coming out. I think sometime this week or something. I don't know. I can't remember when it was. Okay.
Well, if you ever want to have an episode where we just talk about Pathfinder, that's an option.
Yeah. So how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. We had our Roll20 game last week. So I think that went pretty well, and I'm excited about our next one.
Yeah, I had fun with it. It was good.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause this was the first one you'd been able to make too in a while, right?
Yeah. Like, scheduling and different weird events happening around, these days. So
it happens. So that's really cool. I've also been looking at, cause I think I only want to have one more session of the current campaign of that. And then I want to move on to something else. And I've been looking at a couple other games that I might want to run as well. So, so yeah, kind of excited about that whenever, in a couple of months, whenever that might happen.
Sure.
I guess you got anything else?
No, I'm going to be making some cookies later.
You have been talking about cookies the last couple episodes.
Yeah, I don't know, just trying to get into cooking and baking and stuff, just because why not? So,
yeah.
Whatever. I've been making a habit of making cookies almost every week at this point, just to just to get myself in the kitchen.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess let's go ahead and jump into this episode then.
Okay.
I want you to imagine that you're walking down the street, and there's a guy. He's got a cardboard box set up, and sitting on top of the cardboard box, there are these 3 playing cards. Maybe they're tarot cards. You're not sure. And this is a fairly large fellow. He's got scales of a particular color. Let's say he's blue. He's got blue scales. Mm-hmm. And he sees you, and he points at you, and he goes, "Hey."
I go, "Who, me?"
Yeah. Come here. And you see he's got these 3 cards, and he's like, picking them up and then shuffling them back and forth. I'm doing the hand motion, but our listeners are not able to see. And he tells you, if you put down a gold coin and you're able to find, and he picks up one of the cards, and it's a queen. And he says, if you can find the queen, I'll pay you back double whatever you put down. How does that sound? He goes back to shuffling the cards around.
I rummaged through my pockets, and I found myself a nice gold coin. I'm like, hey, I got one of those right here.
There you go. Could you imagine if you just said no?
Right, yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. I guess you don't go to the Dragon's Hoard.
Right.
Well, anyway, so you put down your gold coin, and then this dragon fellow in front of you starts, he shows you where the queen is, and then, starts shuffling
right there.
them. Oh, dang it, you won. So he starts shuffling the cards, and okay, so Jeff, he's done shuffling. He's got left, middle, and right.
Oh,
which one do you pick?
I'm going to go with the one on my left.
Okay, you pick up the one on your left, his right.
Mm-hmm.
And to your surprise, you know what's on the other side?
What's that?
It's the queen.
Oh, nice.
He says, oh, wow, beginner's luck, I guess. Well, here's your gold coin. He hands you a gold coin, Except you notice that it's not a gold coin. It appears to be like a token of some sort.
Mm.
And then you look back up at him and he's gone.
Oh, man.
But then you see down the alleyway behind him, there's like an old rusted door and there's like a slot next to it.
Ooh.
So
we're going to go up there and I think I'm going to put this token in that slot.
Okay, so you put your token in there. You hear it rolling. You hear like psh, like it lands in a pile of similar coins. And then the door opens. And you know what you see behind it, Jeff?
What's behind the door?
The dragon's hoard. So today's magic item was submitted by Colton S. via email. And the item that he submitted is Hoax's Coins. Now, I had to ask how this was pronounced. It is H-O-U-X. Hoax. That's how Colton pronounced it. So, yes, Hoax's Coins. A very talented arcane trickster known as Hoax enchanted his treasure so whoever steals from him will suffer a great loss. Over time, as more and more adventurers plundered his treasury, his coins were spread throughout the world and were lost. So there's 4 different types of these. There's an uncommon copper, a rare silver, a very rare gold, and a legendary platinum, all of which do kind of similar things. The uncommon copper. Once a day, 10 copper coins that the coin is touching teleports to the pocket of the one that it is attuned to. Rare silver does the same thing to once a day to 10 silver or 100 copper that it's touching. Very rare gold is once a day, 10 gold or 100 silver or 1,000 copper. And then the legendary platinum is 10 platinum, 100 gold, 1,000 silver, or 10,000 copper. So basically what this is you have a coin that you toss in your coin pouch, and then once a day, it automatically teleports a bunch of coins from your coin pouch back to the owner.
Are you putting a coin in somebody else's pouch?
So they stole it from you, and then your coin steals it back. Steals money back. Does that make sense?
Okay,
This is not beneficial to the person who stole it.
Gotcha. So you have this coin on you, and then let somebody pickpocket you, and then it'll periodically take gold. It'll take money from the person who stole from you and give it to you.
Right.
Like, somebody who's not exactly good-natured could potentially put this into like a donation box or something.
Sure.
Somebody like you might find one of these in the donation box of the like local temple or something like that, and like that there's some like somebody's getting put to jail or something because they're somebody thinks that they're stealing from the from the temple the temple's coffers or whatever.
Sure. But in reality, it's being teleported back to the stash of the person who put that coin in there.
Right, yeah. And like who knows, somebody might not even realize they're attuned to this coin or something, and they just think they get this money just appears out of nowhere.
Sure. There's an artifact in the Epic Level Handbook, the 3rd edition Epic Level Handbook, that it's a coin purse that once per day, if you put a coin in there, the next day there will be 2 of that same coin. And it's not super powerful because it's a fairly slow process, but every day it doubles. You get one more. You could get one more platinum coin every day, for example. And until now, I never thought of where that money was coming from. I always just assumed that just creates it. But yeah, with this item, you might think that, oh, okay, I found this lucky coin and then I lost it, but hey, money just keeps showing up in my vault.
Oh, Gabe.
What?
Oh my God. They tossed it down a well.
Oh, okay.
It gets tossed down a well where there's other people have also tossed down coins. Yeah. And so somebody has tossed a coin down the well, being like, "Oh, I wish I was rich," and like you toss it down the well, and then like every day you're all of a sudden there's money showing up in your pocket, and you're like, "What the heck?"
Yeah, that works.
And then you're like you go around telling everybody, "Oh, this well, it grants wishes," and then they start throwing more money in, and then you just get richer, but nobody else gets their wish.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty good. giving something like this to a dragon, I think would be a very, very safe way to get yourself a dragon's hoard.
Oh man, if the dragon found out.
I suppose, yeah. Yeah, the dragon's probably got detect magic or something. Maybe not. Maybe safe isn't the right word.
I mean, like, there's so much. He's probably got so much magical things in his hoard. He wouldn't know. He wouldn't, he might not notice it.
Oh, he won't miss a few gold coins here and there.
Yeah, 10 gold a day.
Or, I mean, if you put the platinum in there, 10,000 copper suddenly disappear. And, And
I mean, it's gold that it's touching. So, I mean, like, there's a limit, It's like...
Sure.
It's only going to come into contact with so much, I don't know. I kind of really like this item. It's neat.
Yeah, it's simple, but it's really neat. It definitely could serve as a good plot hook for an adventure,
Yeah, absolutely.
People's money just starts disappearing from the bank or something, and then, players got to figure out what it is.
Right, you put it in your own bank, your own vault. I'm picturing the vault from Harry Potter.
Sure.
The Gringotts, like where he's just got the stacks of coins in the movie or whatever. But like, you put it in there, and then it gets teleported in you, and you go up to the goblins. You're like, hey, there's money missing out of my out of my vault, and they go, what? But we're goblins. We don't make mistakes. And then you sue them. I don't know.
That's definitely a way to do it. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a neat item, or a neat set of items rather. Yeah, very, very creative. Good job, Colton, on that. So once again, that was Hoax's coins from Colton via email. So Jeff, if anybody else wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Hoard, or if they wanted to submit questions for us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre or retirement village, how would they get those to us?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com, or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
There you go. And before we go any further, we do have our weekly giveaway today. We're, as usual, giving away a copy of Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 1, courtesy of Crit Academy. And actually, I do want to make a small announcement here. I think once our other giveaway ends, so in about a month, I think we're actually going to move on to give away something else from Crit Academy instead. I'm not 100% certain on which thing of theirs we're going to be giving away yet, but just a heads up, we will be doing a new giveaway in a few weeks. So that means there are people who have entered the drawing for Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 1 that unfortunately won't win. I know with Chapel on the Cliffs, we eventually ran out of people and basically everybody won. That most likely will not be the case with this. And I feel bad about that, but I mean, that's how drawings work. Not everybody can always, is always guaranteed to win. So apologies to anybody who does not eventually win a copy of Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 1, but maybe we'll do another drawing for that in the future. We'll see. But hey, we're giving away more free stuff, so everybody can, continue to enter for more free stuff. So Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 1 is a great product. I helped write this product with Great Academy, and it's a collection of 25 character concepts, 25 encounter concepts, magic items, monster variants, player tips, DM tips, tons of stuff in there for your game, whether you're a player or a dungeon master. Great stuff in this book. So Jeff, who is our winner of this great supplement today?
Today's winner is Elliot M.
Winner. Gobble. Yes, congratulations, Elliot M. You should be getting that in your email pretty soon. Be sure to check your spam folder if you haven't heard anything at least from me within the next week. Let us know, I guess. And then if anybody else wanted to enter this drawing, if they wanted to be like Elliot M. and win a free copy of Unearthed Tips and Tricks, you don't have forever to do so, but if you get to us soon, how can they enter this drawing, Jeff?
They can enter by sending us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with Unearthed Tips and Tricks in the subject line.
That's correct. So big thank you to Crit Academy for facilitating this. Congratulations, Elliot M. Good luck to everybody else who is still in the running. Like I said, we'll let you know when we get closer to moving on to a new drawing. So speaking of drawings, though, we announced last week that we are doing a different drawing this month. We are giving away a physical copy of the Deck of Many Things and the Deck of Illusions, courtesy of cultzilla.com. I think it's either .com or .co.uk. These were donated to us from a listener, and we're giving them away as to one lucky winner. And to enter this drawing, you just need to go to the podcatcher of your choice, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, whatever. Leave us a review, hopefully 5 stars, but, hey, just be honest, I guess. Leave us a review, send us a photo of that review, and then we'll enter you in the drawing. I don't think I said it last time, but I think I'm going to say only 1 entry per person.
Right.
It would be great if people were willing to leave us multiple reviews. However, just to be more fair, I think just one entry per person. Not that I think everybody's going to go and, try to enter several times. I don't know.
Sure.
Anyway, so just leave us a review, send us a photo of the review so that we know it's you, and then we'll enter you in the drawing. And we're going to be drawing the winner on, I believe, is August 25th. The episode that comes out that day will have the winner. August 25th is going to be the day we're going to announce the winner. So anytime before August 25th, get us that email with the review and you'll be entered. Of course, if you have already left us a review, that's fine. Just send us a photo of the review you've already left. Mm-hmm. So big thank you to everybody out there. Good luck. And yeah, I'm really excited about this giveaway. Then a couple more things. Check out our Patreon at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. Patreon's an online platform. You can pledge to donate a certain amount of money per month to the creator of your choice. And in return, we've got different tiers we've got outtakes from our episodes. We've got fantasy fiction that I've written. We've got a monthly bonus podcast. We've got a monthly Roll20 game. Lots of fun stuff on there. Go check us out. Once again, it's patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. We understand that money might be a little bit tight for some people right now. If that's the case, don't worry about it. But if you are able and willing to support the show monetarily, we do want to give you some cool stuff in return. So go check that out. Patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. And then one last thing, check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Crit Academy, we mentioned them. They've got new and reusable content for players and DMs every episode. Also check out Brute Force and Ignorance. They're an actual play podcast. Also check out D&D Character Lab, where they made characters and debated whose characters were better. Enough of all that. Let's get into some questions, Jeff.
All right, our first question comes from Dustin on Discord, and he asks, if you could bring back the 5-foot step, would you? And I'm assuming he's talking about like in 5th edition.
Yeah. So if you were, would you put the 5-foot step, which was a thing in 3rd edition and sort of in 4th edition?
Sure.
If you could bring those back to 5th edition, would you? And I think actually making the distinction between the 3rd edition version and the 4th edition version might be important.
Sure.
So do you recall what the 5-foot step was in 3rd edition?
Very vaguely. I remember it was basically, it was sort of like a free action, or was it a swift action or something?
It was neither. It was just a thing.
It was its own. It
wasn't even an action.
Thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So I know in 3rd edition there was like you could do there was like a move action, an attack action. Like there was like a swift action. I don't know if that was only added into 3.5.
I think that was 3.5. There were certain things in 3rd edition that later got turned into swift actions.
Yeah. And then like but there was like a full round action. So like if you wanted to do all of the attacks that you were capable of doing in one round, you would have to do a full round, attack action. Yeah. And you couldn't move and do that at the same time. Right. So like you can only ever really move and do one attack, or you can, I think you could double move too. I think that was an option in 3rd edition.
Yeah, you could use your standard action to move.
Yeah, standard action. That's what it's called, not attack action. Yep. But one of the options was you could take a 5-foot step and still do your full round action. So like if your target was one square out of your reach, you could still do a full round of attacks.
Sure.
It was also beneficial to escaping from somebody's threatened space. So a lot in D&D and most of the more recent editions, like there are things like attacks of opportunity, where if you're trying to run away from somebody you were just engaging in combat with, you're basically turning tail and running, and they can take that opportunity to slash at you while you run away.
Yeah.
5-foot step is basically you take that step, you kind of like, while still like engaged with them, you can take a step back and then turn and run, so that you're now far enough away that they're not going to be able to hit you.
Actually, no. See, that's how I thought it was for a long time.
Right, you can't move afterwards, right?
Yeah. The 5-foot step was anytime you did not move, you got a free 5 foot
Sure.
step. So like you could use your move action to do something. You could like draw a weapon as a move action.
Mm.
And as long as you didn't actually if you didn't actually move from your current space, you were given a free 5 foot step in addition to your action and your move action.
Gotcha. So I mean, like, if for the next round you would potentially be out of reach if they didn't pursue you, I guess.
Well, what you could do, you could 5 foot step away and then draw a bow and fire a bow.
Oh, sure.
So like
sure.
there were things you couldn't 5 foot step and then move, but you could do a lot of other things that are similar in idea.
Yeah. In 5th edition, there's some things similar to it. There are at least something that I've equated to it, which is probably why I got confused, was there's disengage, which is like you spend an action to disengage.
Sure.
Which basically makes it so you don't get attacked by attacks of opportunity. So you would spend your action to disengage and then spend your movement to move away.
Yeah.
Also,
in 4th edition, the 5 foot step itself was a move action. So you could spend your move action to either move 30 feet or whatever and incur attacks of opportunity, or move 5 feet and not incur any attacks of opportunity. And if you wanted to, in that case, it was called a shift. You could shift 5 feet and then use your standard to move. So you could shift and then run away.
Sure.
So
okay.
similar thing in 4th edition.
Yeah. Maybe that's what I had in mind.
Maybe. I mean, the whole thing is very confusing. Don't feel guilty for having made a mistake.
And I mean, that is partly why I don't think I would bring it back.
Yeah.
Just because because you can tell, like, just between 3rd and 4th edition, like there were some changes there, and as far as like how the tactics of a shift or 5 foot step or what do you want to call it.
Sure.
And then in 5th edition they have a thing that kind of allows you to do that. It has a bit of a stricter 5th edition. I feel like has more of a strict action economy.
Yeah.
When it comes to things like that. Little like being able to do maneuvers. I think they have bonus actions, which is like certain classes might gain access to the ability to do a disengage as a bonus action. So you could you could disengage as a bonus action, move out of the threat range of one target, and go in and then go and attack another target with your remaining action.
Yeah.
So like there's some cool stuff there that you can do with that, and I don't think 5th edition needs the 5 foot step because it does have things that kind of work in the same way that fit the balance of the tactics of the game. I mentioned earlier that I've been looking into Pathfinder 2, 2nd edition. Again, I don't have great knowledge of Pathfinder 1st edition, so I don't know what was and wasn't there, but I do know they have like a step. They just call it a step because like I know there are some things that give things a 10 foot step or whatever.
Okay.
They might just like it's like taking a step is its own action, and then like maybe like you might get a feat or something like that says like, oh, you step 10 feet rather than stepping 5 feet or something.
Sure. I remember in 3.5 or in 3rd edition, because it was actually the arms and equipment guide, there was a magic item that if you spent like a week training with this sparring dummy, you would from then on have a 10 foot step instead of a 5 foot step, and that was like a huge deal.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I do remember you bringing that up in the Age of Worms.
Yeah,
I think you had J training. I don't think you used that you used that mechanic, but not
I put him in he was in basically the Spirit and Time room from Dragon Ball Z, and it was a giant Zen garden.
Yeah,
he had to leap from like pole to pole in order to rake the sand or whatever.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was a giant Zen garden with a bunch of poles every 10 feet in a grid basically, and he had to like be like raking the sand while not stepping on the sand by jumping from pole to pole, and that was his training session. That's cool.
I'm pretty proud of how I translated that.
Yeah, that was good.
So I mean, this is kind of a complicated issue, and I'll say first off that I love and hate the 5 foot step. I don't think I would bring it to 5th edition because the combat system has changed pretty fundamentally, I would say. But so in 3rd edition, when you were in combat, like you said, Jeff, you had to, in order to get more than one attack per round, which every class could after a certain level. For fighting classes, it was after 5th level and so on. If you want to get multiple attacks per round, you had to spend your entire turn basically just standing in one spot.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I think that the worst part of D&D is when you're in combat and everyone is just standing there hitting each other.
Right. You're just stuck in one location wailing on each other.
Right. And so I can't fault the 5-foot step for giving some degree of movement to what is otherwise a very stationary combat. So it's not the 5-foot step's fault. However, I think that because you could get out of, if you didn't have any option of getting out of someone's threatened space except by disengaging or whatever, like, in 5th edition you can disengage. If that was your only action, if that was your only option for getting out of someone's threatened space, I think more people would do it. Because there was a 5-foot step, more people were willing to 5-foot step back, drink a potion, or 5-foot step back, cast a spell, or whatever. So the 5-foot step encouraged people to just, whatever you got to do, just stay in that one spot and keep doing what you're doing. I think that if it was harder for you to get out of there, if it was harder for you to make good use of your full round attack, I think fewer people would have done it. I would have liked for D&D to move in the direction of mobile combat, moving and attacking. 5th edition does this pretty good. You don't have to spend your whole round attacking as a fighter in order to get 3 or 4 attacks around. You can use 3 or 4 attacks and then move. However, you're still suffering opportunity attacks, which is the other part of that, stationary combat incentive. It is hard to justify being very mobile in combat when you're going to give the enemy a free attack every time you try to get out of there. It's basically whoever is willing to just stand there and attack is going to get more attacks. So I want to be that person. I don't want to be the person who gets attacked. We had an episode a few months ago. It was, I just brought it up. It's episode 138. We talked about opportunity attacks and whether we would consider removing them. And I'm pretty sure I said in that episode, I wouldn't remove them. However, I don't like them and I would want to find some other solution. I like how in 5th edition, certain characters can use their bonus action to disengage, like rogues and such. I like that. I wish it were an option for other characters, but maybe not as good. Like maybe if everybody could do it like once per encounter or something.
Sure.
I think that would help the game be more mobile. Because again, when you think of like, when you're watching a movie or something, you're watching like The Princess Bride and you see Wesley and Inigo are fighting up on the cliff top. They're going all over the freaking place. They're jumping, they're bouncing. You can see the trampoline that they're jumping off of, whatever. I would love if D&D was more of that. But even in 5th edition where they are better off than they used to be, it still encourages you to just stand in one place. So on the topic of the 5-foot step, I like that the 5-foot step existed. However, it was a symptom of a system that isn't great, and the system still has that problem. So I don't think I would bring it back in 5th edition. I think I would try to find some other way for 5th edition to be more mobile in combat. Mm-hmm. It's a neat relic, but I don't really think it has a place anymore, personally speaking.
I'm sure, the other systems could use it, but I just think they took it out for a reason and they filled it with something that kind of that works out okay.
Sure. Now if you were saying in Pathfinder, there might be feats or whatever that make it like 10 feet instead of 5 feet. If the game was more about that, if it was everybody could do this, and then there were class features and feats and so on that made it better, I'd be on board with that. What if instead of kind of like how 4th edition did, you had to spend you had to spend your movement to do it, but if you did, there were class abilities that maybe gave you a bonus to your AC when you did it. Or a bonus to, a ranged attack roll or something. If it was more involved in the mechanics of the game and not just a tax that everybody has to pay. Because if you're 5 foot stepping away from your opponent, they're just going to 5 foot step to you and do a full attack. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was sort of, in the days of the third edition, there were plenty of encounters that just turned into like full attack, 5 foot step away, and then the monster would 5 foot step in and full attack, and then it would just you just kind of be like slowly shifting your way across the board.
Right.
Hopefully, like maybe in the hopes of like getting over to your, your friend or your healer, or to like maybe set up a flank or something like that. But it was just like, it was very just like kind of a slow crawl, which I mean, like flavor wise, I guess you could say is like the fight in Princess Bride, because rounds only take 6 seconds and things like that. But I guess, I mean, in reality, in the actual like gameplay, the real, the fun you're trying to have, it's not quite like that.
Sure. So, again, 5 foot step wasn't bad. I think there's got to be a better way to do it. You know what I mean? If it was more interesting, I think it would be better. So.
Okay, our next question comes from Jason E. on Discord, and he asks, how do you rebuild momentum and excitement in your game when there is a big gap between sessions?
Yes, so this is a good question, and it's hard. I don't really know if I have a great answer for it. I've got a few ideas.
Right, yeah.
But like
a few suggestions.
Yeah, I've definitely had many a campaign end because we took a break for a few weeks, and then when we got back together, just the momentum wasn't there. The excitement wasn't there. Maybe we forgot where we were in the adventure.
Right. Yeah. Or what's the thing about things are going to get weird?
Oh, well, yeah, that's actually kind of what I was thinking of. So one of my favorite gaming quotes that has come up in previous episodes was I was running the players through Shackled City, and there's a part where one of the players said to me, he was like, okay, will the halfling fit in the bear costume with me? And I was like, sure, yeah, of course. And then he was like, okay, guys, this is about to get weird. And then I had the brilliant idea, because we were coming up on time. I was like, okay, well, hold on to that thought. When we reconvene next time, let's go through with this weird plan you have. This is going to be great. But then we ended up not playing for a few weeks because it was right around the holidays. And then we just, didn't get back together. And then when we got back together, he couldn't remember what his plan was. It's like, I should have just let him do it or something.
Right. Well, I mean, like, it was a good idea because it's a nice cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Like if your intention is to play soon,
sure.
It wouldn't have been that big of a deal, but things happen. So like, things are about to get weird is a great cliffhanger.
Right.
Like that's you want to do that because you want that excitement to carry over into the next session. But when there's a big gap, especially when it's not planned, that can really ruin it. So
sure.
Anytime I've played with you, you always like to say, does anybody want to recap what happened last time?
Yes.
Like little recaps are always a good idea. Even if it's been a long time, you can everybody can kind of get together and be like, what happened? What was it? Because not everybody's going to remember every detail, but if everybody works together, they can maybe piece together things that have happened, even if it's been a while.
Yeah. So if you can get one of the players to write a recap, either right when the session's over, or maybe right before the next session, or during the gap, during the gap between sessions, if you can get one or more players involved in thinking about the story, it can, at least for that player, can get them, keep them on track. If you do have like a shared website, or you got a Discord or whatever, if you can get them to post the recap on there, or even just if you can have discussion going on between games, that's going to go a long way to keep everybody excited. Mm-hmm. There was a campaign that I ran, that I played in, it was a 4th edition campaign where I played my character Artemis Redsleeves. In that campaign, every session, the DM had one of the players would write a recap in character on our shared Wikidot site. Mm-hmm. And it it went a long way. Like, and we switched up each session. So like I might do it one day and then this other player is going to do it the next day and so on. And so you would get kind of like everybody's take on how the campaign is going, because you would get each character's point of view on the events that are happening. And that was really cool. And I've been chasing that dragon ever since. I always try to get players to do this sort of thing whenever I run like a long-term campaign, and it just doesn't work. It's a shame, but
yeah. I mean, so, sometimes it's hard to find time and motivation. Plus, not everybody's a writer, Gabe.
I know. I acknowledge that I was in a very good group for that type of approach. So
yeah.
But yeah, like if you can have like a message board where the players can talk about the game, even just talking out of game can still, if it's a group of players that don't normally talk to each other, it can still keep them, excited about the game to some extent.
I was trying to think of different ways to do same thing, but just different mediums. So instead of having to like write out a thing, you could, you can act out a thing maybe.
Okay.
You can have a set of, I feel like I've brought up the concept of sock puppets in D&D.
It's come up at least once. Yeah.
So you have a set of sock puppets. Everybody makes their own sock puppet for their own character. And then you use those sock puppets to then reenact the things that happened in previous sessions. So like, and then like you could have people take turns doing it like the same way, but it's like everybody's like, you use the sock puppets and you do like the funny voices and things like that and kind of reenact what happened. Like, so last time so-and-so got in a fight with the king or whatever, and there was, like they got a little sock puppet for the king character or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just silly little, or like, like you were saying, like it's like you're taking the perspective of the character. So maybe in like something like that, it might be a perspective of like the townsfolk or something.
Sure.
Like, you see like there's always the bit in like the medieval, fantasy world things where they're like the characters like walking through town and they see the commoners like putting on a show about the things that are going on with the main character or with like the king or something or whatever.
Okay.
And like sort of like the perspective of the common folk, as to what's going on in the adventure. So they might like reenact it that way.
Sure.
But a more like cartoonish, like political cartoon version of of what's actually going on.
Yeah.
So that's another sock puppet idea.
I guess. Yeah. Whatever you can do to get the players to continue to communicate, whether it's talking about the game, on a Discord or whatever, whether it is getting together in the meantime and playing a board game or something, even just getting them to hang out is a step in the right direction. It might not be a huge step in that direction, depending on, if they see each other all the time anyway, it's not going to be as meaningful. But if they only ever get together to play this particular game, then any kind of interaction with them is hopefully going to remind them of the game and what's going on.
Yeah. Because I can think, back in the day when we were playing, we would be hanging out all the time anyway.
Yeah.
And so like we could be talking about the session between sessions and we'd be getting excited and be like, and I feel like there were plenty of times where we were at a party or something and we were just sitting around talking about D&D and it was like, let's just go home and play D&D. Like, let's just go do that. Like, I don't know how many times that happened, but I'm sure it happened multiple times.
I'm sure it did. Yeah. I can think of at least one time. Yeah.
Where we left a social event, because we were all just geeking out about D&D. We're like, let's just go do that instead of this social event that we're barely here for.
Yeah. The biggest part is just that if the players are engaged, if the players are interested, if they are willing to stay engaged and stay excited, it's going to be a lot more easy than if they're not. If they've got a bunch of stuff going on and during the gap, let's say it's over the holidays or whatever, if they're hard to get a hold of and you put some stuff on your Discord or whatever saying, hey, what's some stuff your character is thinking about? If they don't respond, they're not gonna be contributing to that momentum. And that can suck. It can definitely feel like if the DM is the only one that's doing any of the work to try and keep everybody engaged, it can feel like a lot of work. Similarly, if you're a player and you're the only one doing any work to do that, that can suck too.
Yeah, it's very disheartening. And then that's extra work on the DM to be like the hype man, like they already got to do they already got so much on their plate. Being the hype man, that's too much.
Sure. So I don't know. Maybe think of like small discussion questions that you can ask the players about their characters, and then just send it to them and see if they respond.
Sure.
That's if it's something a simple discussion question or whatever. That's probably the easiest way to go about this sort of thing. If you want to come up with like, oh, here's a little play-by-post side quest that your characters can do in the meantime. That can be good, but again, you need more participation, or it's just going to fall flat. If only one person's participating in the play-by-post or whatever, then it's not going to go as well.
Sure.
So I really think just communication is key. Having some sort of a easy way to communicate with each other. Again, like a Discord or a Slack or something like that, or even a Roll20, whatever. It's probably
even just like a group chat or group text or something like that. I know, people have their issues with those kind of things, or it's like, being part of a group chain, like, email chain or text or something like that.
Sure.
Try to keep it on topic kind of thing, but I don't know. You're right. Anything to keep the communication going between the sessions, and that way people aren't forgetting about it. And then also that might be a good way to like keep people up to date with like the session schedule, because like,
Sure.
Oh, hey, we are going to have to delay another week. How does next Tuesday sound to everybody? So like, being able to keep up the schedule as well as the hype.
Sure. It's hard. It's hard. And like I said, it's definitely led to at least a couple campaigns on, for me to fall apart, and it sucks, but sometimes it happens. Sometimes there's no avoiding it. It's either that, or you keep on playing without some of the players because they can't make it or something. And that isn't always a good option either.
Actually, we have another question. This is from the Beverage Tea on Discord. They ask, have you ever called a session 0 after starting a campaign to reassess and realign the group's style of play or expectation? So this is actually not a bad idea.
Yeah.
You can have a session 0.5 or whatever.
Sure.
Or you can have a session 7.5 or, like a midway session that can kind of reevaluate things, or to help, help hype up the excitement again.
Sure.
So that's not something I don't think I've ever been a part of. I guess it's possible we've had sessions in the past that were less about progressing the story and more just about like kind of like talking, like we might have discussed our expectations or something at that point, maybe. I don't know.
I feel like we have, I could be wrong, but I feel like most of the time when we do it, it just ends up with us making new characters and starting a new campaign.
That kind of did come to my mind when I was thinking about it. I was like, that's kind of just how it does become a session 0 for the next campaign, because like a new book came out or something.
Sure. Because you were talking about like, we used to hang out a lot, and sometimes, we would be talking about whatever game we were currently running. But also a lot of times we would start talking about, oh man, I had this idea for a character. And then someone else is like, I had this idea for a character. And then before we know it, we're all making 4 specialist wizards and starting, coming up with ideas for a new campaign.
Right. Yeah. We're all making Gestalt characters, all of which are specialist wizards mixed with something else.
Right. I could be wrong. So I hope this doesn't sound like I am condemning the Beverage Tea's situation if this is a situation that they're currently going through. But I feel like we have never done this unless something was wrong with the campaign, and then that's why we started a new campaign instead.
Yeah. I mean, it could be used as an opportunity to fix whatever issues might be, whether it be that there was a big gap and you've lost momentum, or maybe somebody is sort of unhappy with the way their character is going and wants a big change or something like that. And
sure.
It might lead to like, hey, let's just start over a new adventure or something like that. Or it could be like, yeah, I really would like to step into a new character. Is there like, let's take this session to make that happen,
Sure.
like to kind of just that way. And if anybody else wants to make any changes, now's the time kind of thing.
Okay.
So like, again, like a new book came out. So it's like, well, if I knew this was, if this was an option, but at the beginning I would have picked that kind of thing, it's like there's a new feat or something in this book. So like there might be good times to take a session to kind of reevaluate your expectations of the adventure.
Sure.
Like a good time to sit down and talk with your players, not as a DM to two characters, but a DM to the players. Like, hey, okay, is what we're doing what you're expecting? Are you having fun? Just to kind of check in on people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the reason why it seems to me like we've only ever done this when something goes wrong with the campaign and then we started a new campaign instead. I think if there is a reason for that, I think it's probably just that most people tend to not really bring up problems until they get really bad. So I feel like most of the time, if part of you is like, we really need to have a session 0, a second session 0, it's probably because there have been issues that have been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
So at the time, it might seem like the easiest option is to just start over anew. That doesn't mean that that's the only option.
Yeah.
If you want to do this because you think it'll help the campaign, hopefully it will. I sincerely hope that it will. But I just feel like, again, in our experiences, most of the time when we do this, we end up being like, let's just start a new one. I definitely remember, it wasn't with you, but it was when I was playing with Chris and Melissa and Jay. We had our campaign. He was playing his character Ardric. I was playing my cleric Saythorn. We had an adventure that Melissa ran that ended so badly that none of us really knew what the heck we were supposed to do after that. And I definitely remember we did have a thing where we sat down and we were like, okay, what are we doing from now on? And that similarly ended with us making new characters.
Sure.
So, I don't know.
It's kind of like, it's like that thing with Kitchen Nightmares where like people always bring up the fact that Gordon Ramsay, like the restaurants that he goes to quote unquote fix. And it's like, well, only like 20% of them, only 20% of them are still open after he's gone. So he must be terrible at it. It's like, no. They were bad to begin with. The whole point that him showing up there is that their kitchen was a nightmare,
right?
And was failing and was going to close unless they did something about it. And so he showed up and tried to help them. And, not everybody listens.
Sure.
So like if the session 0 is happening, that's because something, if the session 0B is happening, that's probably because it's already a doomed campaign and you might be able to salvage it, or you might have just cut your losses and try something new.
Yeah. If I could give a piece of advice, because I guess this is ostensibly an advice podcast, I would say, don't
use chocolate sauce on shrimp. Because Gordon Ramsay did not like that one.
Don't put Twinkies on your pizza. From Heavyweights. No, the advice I would give is if you start having an inkling that this might be necessary, do it now. Don't do it in a few sessions when it gets worse.
Sure.
It's like if you can fix the problem now, that'll increase the chances of it leading to a better continuation of the same game rather than scrapping this game and starting a new one.
Yeah.
So good luck. I don't recall from the context of the question whether the beverage tea was currently going through this sort of thing or not, but if so, good luck. Hopefully it went well, because I think this question was actually from several months ago, but good luck, stick with it. Hopefully good stuff happens.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today, but we do still have our social media discussion questions. And our last social media discussion question was, have you ever destroyed an artifact or powerful magic item? If so, how did you do it? Do you have an answer, Jeff?
I think we talked about we had used a sphere of annihilation to destroy the like cloak of a deity or something,
Yes.
or a would be deity.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that cloak would technically be an artifact, but I mean, at the very least, I'm using a crazy powerful magical weapon to a magical object.
Sure.
To destroy another one. So, I feel like it's up there.
Yeah, I would say Kyos's cloak counts, and also Kyos destroyed the Sphere of Annihilation afterwards, so at the very least, you destroyed the Sphere of Annihilation.
Yeah, that was a lot of stuff happened on that encounter.
I think that's the only one I've also been a part of myself. I don't, this doesn't really come up very often, as evidenced by the very small number of responses we got.
Sure.
So we didn't get any responses on Facebook. We got one on Reddit. Alistar the Minotaur says, "Not quite this, but I used a powerful relic to unintentionally bring chaos upon an entire nation. In a world that had virtually no magic whatsoever, my character unknowingly powered down a magical artifact that was suppressing magic over an entire continent. Suddenly, undead broke free from their graves, demons opened portals to the abyss, and decades of imprisoned mages had their powers returned to them. It wasn't a great showing on the part of Arthas the Templar." So, I'd say that counts, Sounds close enough. He powered down this super powerful thing, so good job, I guess.
Sure.
I don't think we got any on Twitter, and we just got a couple on Discord. Jason E. actually said, "In the Age of Worms, Jeff, Steve, and I found the Sphere of Annihilation and a Talisman of the Sphere. We used it to destroy Kyos's magic cloak, which gave him a ridiculous AC bonus and damage reduction. Then Kyos cast Gate on the sphere, destroying it and sending us and him through a portal randomly to Arcadia, where we finished the fight. Most epic battle I had ever been in."
Yeah. Yep, that's it. Yeah, that's it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good story, I think. Autumn Wind says, "Destroy it. It is a gift to the foes of Mordor." Which I think is a quote from Harry Potter, if I'm not mistaken. Dustin says, "I once was convinced to dispel a map that had an illusion aura. The real map must be hidden," in quotes. "Turns out that the spell allowed the map to track a magical floating city. I dispelled that. So I broke the map. My party was not happy."
Oh, no.
And then Collins B says, "Not that I can remember. The closest I've had is my first character, Kongu, who was in I believe was in a Funeral Pyre story a long time ago, had his legendary sword, Ironbark, which was in the Dragon's Horde, stolen by Lolth herself after she punched him in the back of the head so hard he almost died. I'm excited to get ideas from this segment, however, because my players in my Acquisitions Incorporated campaign are going to need to figure out a way to destroy the mythic Orrery of the Wanderer, an artifact that threatens the world just by existing. The Lich who created it separated the pieces, but they have supernaturally found their way back together into the hands of my players and agents of the Six." So unfortunately, you won't get very many ideas from this, Collins, I guess, because not many people wrote in. But the picture that I chose to use for this was from the 3.5 DMG, I believe. And it was a picture of one of the characters throwing the wand of Orcus into the Tarrasque's mouth.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that picture because, that's one way to do it,
Yeah.
I always love hearing stories of how artifacts have to be destroyed.
Right.
I think the hand and eye of Vecna have to be attached to an evil spellcaster, and then that spellcaster has to be killed by the Sword of Kos.
Right, yeah.
And then the only way to destroy the Sword of Kos is to have someone with the hand and eye of Vecna cast Wish to destroy it. So you can't destroy both of them. You can only, one of them has to survive to destroy the other.
Right.
So
yeah, that's pretty cool.
So I love stories of destroying artifacts. Unfortunately, it doesn't come up in game very often, I'm sure. So I can't fault our listeners, but
Sure, between it being mostly high level stuff and nobody plays high levels anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody's got the time.
So there's the His Dark Materials. It's a series of books that are currently being made into an HBO series.
Mm-hmm.
The one of the books in that trilogy is called The Subtle Knife, and the Subtle Knife is an incredibly powerful artifact that it can cut through anything, like literally anything, including it can cut holes between dimensions.
Right. Oh,
and part of in one of the books, I guess, small spoilers for this book, but I mean, devoid of the context, I don't see how this would be a spoiler. But the knife breaks at one point because while the character is using it to cut between dimensions, he's not focused. He's like distracted. And so as a result, while he's cutting, he basically like bends and breaks it between dimensions, I guess. I mean, he gets the pieces. He has to very carefully pick up the pieces because if he doesn't, they'll cut through his fingers, the ground, whatever. And so he has to figure out a way to put it back together afterward. But similarly, I think that's an interesting idea. Like, you can break it by using it for what it was intended and just doing it badly, I guess.
Sure. So. Yeah.
Anyway, again, I love these types of stories. So that was our last social media question. Our next social media question is, and this was submitted by a listener, submitted by Potato Plunderer on Discord. And the question is, when did you decide to leave the villain alive? What happened afterwards? Do you have an answer?
I can't remember. I remember us fighting a lich, which technically, if you kill a lich, you're still leaving it alive.
I guess, yeah.
So there was was that Steve's character's like cousin or something?
Yeah, his cousin / rival won't die.
Won't die because he won't die.
Yeah. Because names are hard.
Because right.
So here's an idea. Here's a thing that one example that I thought of, and it was actually, you were a player and I was running this, and this was during our actual play that we did last year.
Okay.
You guys fought a vampire.
Yeah.
Not only let her live, but like there was a point where like you guys were arguing with each other about the justification of letting this vampire live, and it was a great bit of role playing.
Sure. Yeah.
So ultimately you did let her live. You let her go. And,
I think my character like threatened her very harshly too, if I remember correctly.
Also, she gave you some health advice. As for what happened afterwards, not much, because we didn't continue playing for very long. However, at some point I might tell you what I did have planned for that. I know we actually have a question that we might cover sometime soon about like plot lines that didn't get resolved. So maybe I'll bring it up then.
Okay.
So yeah, it's happened, you know. I'd say it's not super common, but it happens. So I'm excited to see what some of our listeners have to say.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll do it for our questions for today. But before we close out, let's wind down a little bit. Let's relax. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us, who have maybe they let a villain live and it didn't end up well for them or something. I don't know. We'll see. As we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Today's funeral pyre story was submitted by UMSVXL on Reddit. And this is their story. I'm a goblin in an evil campaign. Our rogue leaves us to face the boss one-on-one. He gets 4 crits in a row and obliterates the boss. My goblin gets angry because he was left out, and jokingly I say, I want to explode. You know, like explode in anger. But the DM looks at me and points towards the D20. I roll natural 1. So the DM makes me explode. Literally. The last thing our mage witnessed of me was just randomly exploding. Our party will never forget Cackrack the Explogoblin.
What?
What even is this story? But
like, what?
There it is.
I want to explode.
Yep. It's a good story, I guess. I don't know. So I guess let's raise a glass in memory of Cackrack the Explogoblin, who reminds us, keep your mouth shut.
Clink.
All right, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Horde, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned in the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. You can join the discussion on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Reddit. We're on. We have our Interparty Discord. We're on Twitter at InPartyConflict. We've got weekly social media questions, so your answers might end up on the show. Check us out on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere you download podcasts. If you leave us a review and send us a photo before August 25th, we will enter you into a drawing to win a free copy of the Deck of Illusions and Deck of Many Things. So please do that. Also, if you'd like to support the show monetarily, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. We have a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where you can watch us play video games.
Yes. Speaking of video games, check out my side project, the Arcade Memories Podcast. You can submit your own stories to arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. And also head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time,
I want to end the episode.
Kaboom!